Hello and welcome to NPT Community Reformer class. Today I've chosen to do a seated warm-up. So we're going to take a look at warming the spine up in our seated position and printing and breathing in our seated position so that once we've got that good foundation, we're going to carry that on into our seated arm work later on in the program. We're going to look at flowing through the main body of the PIC system categories today and really honing in on why I have chosen the knee stretches in hip flexion 1 as coupled with the basic back extension on the long box for our extension category, and see how setting those exercises into the program can set up for a more successful down stretch when we get to our full body integration. Okay, so coming over to your reformer, I have set mine up with, I've got my springs ready for my footwork, so please work at your appropriate level. And the foot bar is up ready for footwork. I've got my straps ready and the headrest down. So I'm going to come and take a seat right on the very front edge of my reformer. And I'm just going to take a moment to think about how I'm sitting and sitting up nice and tall. I'm going to start by bringing my hands on top of my head so I can feel the grounding of the sitting bones, those ischial tuberosities anchoring down into the carriage, and how the feedback of my hands is assisting me to be active through my spinal alignment. I'm going to start to bring the awareness into my breath, and I'm going to take a full inhalation. And then a full exhalation. And I'd like you to work at your pace. What I want you to notice is the freedom of the rib cage. So as you breathe in, you're able to move the sternum, expand the rib cage, and feel that full capacity of the inhalation breath. And as you exhale, you can relax the air out and squeeze all of the air out of the diaphragm and feel that gentle tightening and recruitment around the torso. Breathing in, full expansion through the thorax. Notice the elevation up through the clavicle. And as you exhale, relax. Feel the relaxation recall component, and then keep squeezing the air out to feel the tightening in the print. Good, taking a full inhalation. And taking a full exhalation. Good. Continuing your breathing, I'm just going to bring my hands down to the front edge of the reformer, and I'm going to press gently through the palm of my hand. So I'm immediately connecting from the hand into the arm shoulder and feeling how that brings more awareness into where my torso is in relation to my pelvis and my head. And from this position, I'm going to start to take a seated roll down. So for this, we're going to really focus on the articulation or the mobilization of the spine. So using an exhale breath, we're going to nod the chin, soften the sternum, and we're going to continue to roll the spine forward into that fully flexed position, trying to bring the forehead down towards the knees. Taking an inhale breath at the deepest point there, and then using your exhalation to restack. So we're going to bring the spine back up to its upright. What I want you to notice is there's no movement through the pelvis or the pelvic bowl. So we're initiating by nodding the chin, that cervical nod, thoracic flexion, encouraging that thoracic flexion into lumbar flexion as we come down. So the pelvis will stay still. We're going to breathe in to the back of the rib cage, and then we're going to breathe out to restack from the lumbar through the rib cage, through the shoulder girdle, through the neck, and through the head. Good, breath in, feel length up vertical through your spine, and breathing out, nod the chin, soften the sternum, and roll the spine forward. Keep your nose pulling in towards your navel. Keep your forehead coming down between your knees. Breath in, breath out to restack. Feel the sitting bones anchoring. Feel the spine stack up nice and tall. And we've got one more, breath in. Breath out, rolling down. Feel the weight of the head pulling you in. Feel that active flexion through the spinal joints as you come down. Breath in at the bottom. And breathing out into the strengthening of the back extensors that brings us from our flex back to our neutral. Good. From here, we're taking a seated twist. We're going to bring the arms out to the side. We're going to focus on a rotational movement through the head, neck, and ribs. And we're going to keep the knees nice and still in space. So we're using an exhalation breath just to twist ourselves around to the side. We're going to use an inhale breath to bring us back to our upright center. So full exhalation assists in the recruitment of the obliques as we rotate. The inhalation spirals us back to the center, feeling that elongation through the spine. Exhale, turning the head, neck, ribs. Feel the opposition of the arms. Breath in to pull us back to the center. I particularly like this exercise in a seated position because it keeps me true to that spinal rotation. Please ensure that your knees and thighs aren't moving from within your hip joints. Exhale as we twist. Inhale as we come back to the center. Rotating fully through that neck, ribs. Feel the opposition pull of the arms and pull back to the center. One more. Exhale to twist. Mobilizing the neck and the rib cage in a rotational movement. Mobilizing through that thorax. And pulling ourselves back to the center and relaxing down. So from here, we're going to go into our supine position, getting ready for pelvic curls. We're going to put our feet up onto the foot bar today. So getting ourselves safely down into our supine position. Can you bring your heels up to parallel and hip width? And just take a moment to establish your print. So feeling the connection from the heel down into the leg hip. And can we focus on weight through the tailbone, the back of the rib cage, back of the head, and through both arms. We're going to start with our imprinting, so taking an inhale to prepare. And as we use that exhalation breath, we're going to feel how the pelvic bowl tilts towards us to imprint the lumbar vertebra onto the carriage. We're going to use an inhale breath, feel the lungs, and feel the control of the movement back into your neutral zone. Continue. You might notice in this position that it's much easier for you to pull that pelvis into that posterior tilt and that imprint. But because of the angle of the leg at the hip joint, it might be a little harder for you to roll back into that neutral zone, into that anterior position. Exhale. Feel the connection of the abdominals pulling the pelvis into the posterior tilt. Using the inhale breath to roll the pubic bone away from the sternum to find your neutral zone. One more imprint. Exhale. Pubic bone pulls towards the sternum. Inhale, pubic bone rolls back away from the sternum. So we've mobilized through the hip joint and the lumbar spine. Let's actively roll up into our pelvic curl. So we're imprinting, feeling the load shift into the feet as we pick the pelvis up and bridge up into our pelvic curl. Reaching those knees forward over the toes. Breath in. Breath out softens the sternum and rolls us back down. You might notice that we can't get quite as far up into our pelvic curl pattern because of the demand on the hamstrings with the legs up onto the foot bar. So take your time to build up to your full height. We're going to exhale to imprint. Shift the weight into the legs. Feel the hip extensors bringing the pelvis up as far as we can into our pelvic curl pattern. Breath in. Exhale, sternum drops down away from the chin as we control the articulation back down to the carriage. Feel the sitting bones reaching back down towards your heels. Breath in. As we exhale, we imprint and roll up. We should be feeling a little warmer through our hip extensor chain now. So can we push that range of movement a little higher up? reaching those knees, maintaining the angle of the pelvis as we push into a deeper hip extension. Using that exhalation, soften the sternum, roll the spine down, keeping the arms pressing actively down into the carriage. We've got one more, breath in. On our exhale, we imprint, roll up, leading with the pubic bone. Feel the heels pulling back towards your sitting bones. Open the hip joint. Exhale, softens the sternum, rolls the spine all the way back down. Feel the elongation and the pull of the pelvis and sitting bones down towards the heels as you return the spine back to the carriage. Great. From here, we're going to lift the legs up into our tabletop position. We're getting ready for our chest lift 3. So can we connect the feet at the heel? Can we have the knees apart at your hip distance? Can we feel the connection from the foot into the hip? Using our exhale breath, we're going to nod the chin, soften the sternum, and curl up. Reaching energy through the strong, straight arms forward to assist our chest lift. Lowering back down again as we breathe in. Exhale, nod the chin, soften the sternum, reach strong through the arms. Inhale breath lowers ourselves back down. Coming up again using a 2-breath cycle. So exhale, nod the chin, soften the sternum, and curl up. We're going to challenge ourselves by holding on the inhale breath. Fill the back of the lungs, and then exhale to lower back down. Breath in to prepare the body. Breath out, nod the chin, soften the sternum, curl up. Breath in, maintain the height of your chest lift. Breath out, lower ourselves back down. We've got one more. Exhale, curling up. Maintaining that pelvic stability, increasing that thoracic mobility, and lowering ourselves back down. Good work. From here, we're going to grab our hands straight onto our shoulder pads, reaching those elbows out wide to the side and into our spine twist supine, using our inhalation breath to roll the pelvic bowl and the knees over to the side. Using the exhalation breath to draw ourselves back to the center, ribs, waist, pelvis. Inhale, rolling over to the other side. So how far can we lift the pelvis, keeping both of our shoulder blades on the reformer carriage? Using that exhalation, we're controlling out of that rotation patterning. Using that inhale, sending the pelvis over into rotation through the lumbar spine. Using that exhale breath, drawing back, feel the sternum soften as we return the ribs, waist, and pelvis. Breathing in, mobilizing the spine in rotation. And exhale, finding that stability and that recruitment as we draw back from the rotation to neutral. One more on each side. Inhale. Are we able to maintain the same distance between the knees by connecting strongly through the feet and into the leg hip? One more time. Breath in. And breath out, drawing back. Great work. So from here, we're going to place the feet down onto the foot bar, getting ready for our leg and footwork category doubles. So the heels are going to come on parallel and hip width, finding that soft dorsiflex position and connecting from the foot into the leg hip, connecting the arms down into the carriage. Using our exhale breath, initiating from the hamstrings, we're pressing out to a straight leg, and inhale, resisting back in. Exhale to push all the way out and resist the carriage back in again. Can you practice 4 more? All the way out, all the way in. Keeping the movement active throughout. Last practice. and returning back in. Can we switch immediately onto the toes parallel? Or the metatarsals and toes on the foot bar with the heels slightly lifted, keeping the heels still in space. And again, finding that connection from the hamstrings as you push on your exhale. And inhale, resist actively back in. Exhale to push through the foot. Inhale, resist back in. Can we feel that connection from the foot right up into an active knee extension? Quadriceps are working, but finding how we can initiate from the hamstrings as we push away and as we control back in again. We've got 2 more on the toes. Exhale out and inhale, resist back in. We're going into our V position. So connect the heels, finding that connection through the inner thighs and into our hip external rotators. We push out on the exhale. Inhale to resist the carriage back in. Press and resisting back in. Can we feel the difference in the recruitment of muscles as we've turned the legs from parallel to external rotation? We've got 3 more. Lengthening the spine away from the foot bar and resisting the return. And last practice. From here, we're coming out to our heels wide position. So maintaining that external rotation from the hip joint. Can we feel the connection from the heel into the hamstring? As we press away, exhale. Inhale, resist the carriage back in. So even though the legs are wide, we're still focusing on the feedback that we're getting through the heels. So as we straighten, can we feel like the heels are still drawing in towards the midline? And as we control the carriage out, are we able to pattern that hip external rotation? Good. We've got 2 more. Pressing out to a straight leg, long spine, and resisting in. And pushing away. Resisting in. Okay, coming into our wide toes position. Feeling the stability through the foot arch into the heel. We're pushing away as we exhale and resisting back in. So that heel is staying still in space as we're moving through the hip joint, knee joint, ankle joint. Exhale to press. Inhale, work the return, resist. Keep the movement active throughout. Last 2. And last 1. Return the carriage in. Back into our toes, parallel hip width, and into our calf press, into our calf raises. So from here, we're going to straighten the legs all the way out. Find the activity from the foot into the leg. We're lowering both heels down and rising back up onto the toes. Moving evenly and equally through the ankle joint and staying active throughout our range. Exhaling down, inhaling up. Can we feel the opposition of the crown of the head reaching away as the heels draw under and rising up fully through the ankle joint onto the toes? We've got 2 more. And let's take our prances with a little bit of pace. So we're going draw down, but with the dynamic of lifting up onto the toes. So making sure that as we press the heel down, we're not coming into a passive relax or stretch. So we're going and up, and up, and up, and up. Twice more on each side. And resisting and controlling the carriage back in. Good. So from here, we're going to come up and change the springs. For the abdominal series today, we've got our hundreds preparation into a modified version of hundreds. I'm going to drop my springs down, ready for my abdominal category. And grabbing and preparing the hand straps back into the supine position. Grabbing the hands into your hand straps, making that strong fist around the handle, and just taking a moment to feel the energy from that grasped hand through the strong straight arms into that connected torso position, brought across your shoulder blades and brought across your collarbones. Floating the legs up into our tabletop position, connecting through the foot into the hip. We're going straight into our preparation for hundreds today. The arms press down in parallel, nod the chin, soften the sternum, curl up. Keep reaching energy through the arms as you lower back down. Exhale, nod the chin and press quickly to get up. Keep reaching that energy forward as the arms start to float up and return back down. Exhale, nod the chin, soften the sternum and press. Inhale, keep reaching energy through the arms, even on the return back down. We've got 2 more. Exhale to press. And inhale, keep reaching energy forward as you return down. Exhale, curl and reach. Inhale, lower back down. I'm going to keep my legs in tabletop position as we curl up for our hundreds breathing. So nodding the chin, softening the chest and pressing up. From here, we've got a pulsing through the arms, breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can we feel the energy from that clasped hand into the shoulder blade and feeling how that's dynamically pulsing from the back of the trunk there? Breath in, feel the expansion through the back of the ribs. Breath out, maximal contraction through the abdominal wall. In and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, really focusing on that forward press, maintaining that chest lift as we breathe. Good. Last breath cycle. And still the arms, reaching up, keep the energy on the return of the carriage and lower the legs back to the foot bar. Good work. Bringing ourselves back up to our seated position. We've got our leg strap work category, so frog circles openings, and we're going to take that into our short spine prep, into our spinal articulation category. So we're going to flow all of that through. Lying ourselves back down, pulling the straps forward so that we can easily step the feet in. Just taking a moment to establish that new position with the feet in the straps and how that affects our ability to maintain pelvic and spinal neutral zone. Connect through those heels, connect through that corkscrew spiral at the hip, and we're using our exhale breath to press away. We're using our inhale breath to pull actively back in. So maintaining our neutral zones through the pelvis and the spine and feeling the challenge. The exhale presses the legs out. We find that abdominal recruitment to stabilize through that pelvis and lumbar spine. The inhalation, we worked an active hip flexion as we pull back in. We've got 2 more practices, exhaling out and inhale back and press away, drawing in. We're going to keep the legs straight. We're going into leg circles. So can we pick the legs up into hip flexion as far as we can maintain that neutral zone? External rotation from the leg within the hip joint as we exhale to push both legs down towards the spring, and inhale to circle the leg around at the hip joint. Exhale to push down, inhale to control back. As you exhale, feel the ribs closing and the softening of the sternum and how that supports the torso in this position. The strong straight arms are pressing and connecting the arm into the shoulder, into the trunk. Exhale, push. Can you give some thought to that tailbone staying heavy as the legs come back up and around, can we reverse the circle? We're going to open and press down on the exhale, squeeze those heels together and lift the legs back up again. Open and press down as we exhale. Feel the integration of the arms into the torso trunk to provide stability as we're getting the mobility at the hip joint. Press around, exhale. Inhale, coming up into an active hip flexion. One more, exhale to press down. Inhale to come up. We're going to take low openings today. So we're going to press the legs back down to our 45 degrees and take a moment to really feel that we're pressing the feet out into the straps to create space around the hip joint. We're breathing in, abduct the legs, maintain that external rotation spiral. Using your exhalation, adduct the legs and squeeze the heels when they join. Breathing in, we open. Carriage moves. Legs rotate at the hip joint. Press and close as we join the heels together. Find a stretch. Find how far you can move your legs within the hip joint, maintaining that stability through the pelvis and the spine. Breathing in, we open. Breathing out, we close. We've got one more. And we're going to draw those legs back together. We're going to bend the knees back into our frog, getting ready for our short spine preparation. So we're going to start by extending the legs out towards the foot bar. We're going to take that hip flexion all the way up. We're going to continue. I want that carriage to search for home. I want the tailbone to ever so slightly adapt and curl up as it needs to get that reformer back into the stopper or home. If we're not quite there, we're going to hold that position anyway. The thighs stay still. I like to place my hands on the front of my thighs to make sure that they don't move as I bend at my knees, active through my hip extensors to return back to my start position. Pressing out one. Drawing the legs over into hip flexion, allowing that pelvis to come into a slight posterior tilt as necessary to bring the carriage home. Now staying active through the hip joint here, work the hamstrings to bend the knees to return back to our frog and our neutral zone. Good work. We press out one. We mobilize through the hip extensors, mobilize through the lumbar. From here, keep the carriage still, actively work those hip extensors to draw back in. Let's go for two more, pressing out one. Rolling that carriage into the stopper, opening up the hamstrings, lower back. Good. From here, stabilize the thigh, bend back to start. Pressing out one, drawing those legs up and over. Feel the activity through the arms to assist in stability and work to pull back and rest. Good work. From here, we're going to take the feet out of the straps, return the carriage home. You can bring those straps back to their resting point, and we're going to come up to start patterning our knee stretch. So coming to a kneeling position, we're setting up our feet and our lower legs into an active hip flexion extension position. So bringing the hands onto the foot bar, strong straight connection through the arm into the shoulder, connection of the foot, big toe down into the carriage, and that active lift of the hips, even though we're sat back towards the heels. Can we come into our round back position? So nod the chin, tuck the tail, and find that elongated C curve. And then from here, pushing from an active hip extension position, we're going to breathe in to press back. Exhale to dynamically pull forward again into that hip flexion. So we should feel that the glutes and the hamstrings are squeezing to get the leg back, and we're able to release at the hip flexors to create the hip flexion and disassociation as we come in. Strong and straight through the arms and spine, no movement through there. Mobilizing at that hip joint, press and return. Two more. Excellent work. Changing the shape of the spine. Can we lift the sternum up to a more neutral zone? Can we feel how the sitting bones are a little wider at the pelvic bowl? Can we feel the connection or the importance of the stability of the abdominals right now to maintain our neutral position? Flat back knee stretch. Active push back in the hip flexors to control back into the hip flexion. So glutes and hamstrings press, resist, and pull back in. Strong straight through the arms, getting that integration from the hand into the torso trunk. Last one. Good. We're going to come up for our elephant now. So coming to standing, strong straight legs, foot flat onto the carriage. Position yourself so that the weight of your pelvis is centered right over your heels. More challenging position through the arm at the shoulder now. So can you feel the connection from the palm? Spiral the arm into the shoulder socket and connect the scapula onto the back of the rib cage. I'm going to imprint, drawing the abdominals up and the tailbone under, using the inhale breath to press both legs back, using the exhalation to pull the legs back underneath the hip joint. Can we feel how from the big toe, we're pulling the leg back in through a lifted arch, up into the adductors, and up into that imprinted position through the pelvis and the spine. Two more. And last one. Good. From here, we're going to kneel down and we're coming into our lunge. What we're going to do today, I'm just going to lower the spring tension down. I'm going to place my foot onto the platform. So onto my front wooden platform. I've still got my knee in line with my shoulder rest at the back. The shin is going to stay connected to the foot bar. And I'm going to think about lifting up nice and tall through that vertical alignment through the spine. So same as our basic lunge, we're pressing the back knee away, keeping the front knee where it is. The challenge is a little greater here. Then from here, keeping the hands on the foot bar, keeping that back leg in hip extension, we're straightening that front leg away. We're going to draw the carriage back in, active return. Let's repeat that again. Front knee stays still, back knee pushes away. From here, we're going to straighten out through that front leg into our hamstring stretch. And we're going to draw the carriage actively back into our start. Good. So from here, let's switch legs. So I'm looking for that mobility in hip extension, getting ready for our down stretch at the end of the program. So from here, nice and active in our vertical alignment. The shin stays in contact with the foot bar as we press that back leg away, extending the hip. From here, keeping the hands on the foot bar, we're going to press out and straighten that front leg to get a stretch in that front hamstring. We're going to draw the carriage actively back into the stopper. Let's go again. Front knee stays still. Push the foot, push the knee, extend the hip. From here, keep the hip in extension, straighten that front leg out. Draw the carriage all the way back in and home. Okay, good. We're moving into our arm work category now. If you wish to do this on a box, please do. Popping that foot bar down and coming and sitting on, getting ready for our arms one lat press. So my legs are going to come through. I've got about a handspan distance at the end between the edge of the carriage and where my pelvis is situated. I'm going to grab hold of the hand straps and I'm going to pull them back until I've got some tension on the springs. I'm going to draw my awareness back into my body. And remember when we sat for our breathing and our roll downs, our hands were connected into the carriage. Can we feel that this is the same patterning right now? I've got a little bit of pressure into my hands. I'm feeling how that activates me right up into that awareness of where my arm is connected through my shoulder and into my trunk. I'm going to try and sit up as high on my sitting bones as I did when my knees were bent, really focusing on that vertical lift. Imagine the hands on top of the crown of your head right now. Now from here, we move. We're going to breathe out, press both arms into the load, breathe in to come forward. breathing out, pressing, breathing in, controlling forward. So we're looking at how far can we send that arm into shoulder extension without disturbing our seated postural alignment. Strong, straight elbows. Feel how the fingertips are reaching towards the floor. So we're not just pressing back, we're pressing down and back. And to oppose that, we're lifting up nice and tall through the crown of the head, through our seated posture. We've got one more. Squeezing it back and controlling it forward. Okay, good. We're turning that around and we're going to go into hug a tree and into salute. So changing that start position around, and can you get the pelvis right back in? Can you get those sitting bones right back as far as you can towards your shoulder rests? I'm going to have my legs out straight. You're welcome to cross the legs if you want. We're going to bring the arms just up to shoulder height with the palms facing in. And can we take a moment just to feel the change in spring tension load and how that is challenging the spinal extensors differently. So reaching the hands right forward, feeling that breadth across the collarbone shoulder blades, sitting up nice and tall in our seated posture. Abducting the arms, so we're breathing in to open the arms out to the side, and breathing out, we're closing back in front of the shoulder joint. So I've got a slight bend in my elbows, lifting my elbows up towards the ceiling, and then I'm holding that shape as I open or abduct at the shoulder and adduct at the shoulder joint horizontally. So we're breathing in, opening out. We're breathing out, closing back in, reaching the fingers forward, breathing in, open. Breathing out, closing and growing taller. So even though the back of the pelvis is supported by the shoulder rests, can we feel like we're sitting up away from them, just to bring the weight of the pelvis a little bit more anterior towards the pubic bone, rather than sitting back towards the tailbone. One more time. Good. Then from here, we're going to switch the arm position. We're bringing the fingertips towards the forehead. Now, this position we've done before, it's very similar to our shoulder press. Can we imagine those hands are on the foot bar almost, and we've still got that rotational spiral of the upper arm bone into the shoulder socket. We're going to use an exhale breath to extend at the elbow, reaching the fingers forward. We're going to breathe in to actively bend those elbows and pull the fingers back to the forehead. We press up and out on a slight diagonal, and we control back in again. So the movement through the elbow as we straighten forward and bend, but can we focus on what's going on through that torso trunk? Are we able to maintain that breadth across the collarbones and shoulder blades as the arms press forward and control back in? We've got two more. Are we growing tall through that seated posture, sitting forward towards the pubic bone? Should really feel the hip flexors. Excellent. And we're resting down. Okay, good. So from here, we're going to bring our long box on, and we're going into our basic back extension. So bringing the foot bar up. And if you have a magic circle to hand, can I get you to grab that and see if we can pop that in between our ankles? So we're going to come and lie onto our long box. And we're going to see if we can position that magic circle in between the ankles. Check that the chest is just forward over that long box, and we're extending at the knees. So from here, we're feeling how we've got that connection now from the foot into the thigh, into the hip, and how that really makes us maintain our hip extensors. And we're going to bring the hands back onto the foot bar. So we've done this one before. Can we feel that connection from the palm of the hand into that spiraling of the upper arm bone, into our patterning of our upper thoracic extension. So we're already in that active position to start. This is where we want to be for our down stretch. So from here, pressing the hands and lifting, initiating from that thoracic extension as we pattern higher up into our lumbar extension. And then from here, we're lengthening that sternum forward as we lower the torso down. So we stay active in that upper thoracic extension and we move from there. Sternum goes up, pressing and reaching long through the arms. And then from here, lengthening the torso forward as we come down. Do we notice how much more active our legs are with the magic circle there? We can keep thinking of the thighs pressing down into the box as the sternum comes up. And as the sternum reaches forward away from the feet and comes down. We've got 2 more practices. From the palm of the hand into the shoulder, into the thoracic extensors as we come up, breathing in. And exhale, lengthening that torso forward and come down. Last one, breathing in. And breathing out as we reach forward and down. Fantastic. Grabbing that circle carefully and stepping off to the side. So can we now pop our foot bar down and go into our pulling straps 1? So lying ourselves on our long box the other way, grabbing hold of our straps right up by the rope. This time without the circle between the feet, but can we still feel that grounding that the circle gave us? So parallel with those legs, they can either be adducted or hip distance apart. Can we connect the arm from the strap into the shoulder? And can we actively come forward into our flexion position to start? As soon as the head drops down, notice how you've got the ability to connect, or there's a lightness through the abdominal wall. Can we scoop up through those abdominals to start? So our abdominals are holding us in our active flexion position. I'm going to use an inhale breath to pull the arms, lead with the head, neck, sternum. Exhale to lower all the way back down again. Breathing in, head leads, sternum lifts forward, collarbones open, arms pull back and up beyond the hip. Lower back down. Pull forward into that active flexion position. Breathing in, head leads, open the collarbones, drive with the sternum. Lower back down, feel how the sternum drops in and under as the head pulls forward. Last 2, breathing in. Exhale, lower back down. Feel the heaviness and groundedness through the thighs and pubic bone. And lower back down. Excellent work. We should be very warm and activated, ready for a successful down stretch. So popping that long box off, popping our foot bar back up. And I'm going to pop an extra spring on there now. So I've got the red and the blue, but you can work to your spring challenge load. So tucking those toes under. Okay, from here, we've already patterned that position of the hand onto the foot bar. We now need to find an active extension through the spine. So can we press the pelvis forward towards the foot bar? Can we feel a connection from the foot, the big toe, through to the inner knee, up through the adductors and into our pelvis? Can we focus on that pelvis being in a slight posterior tilt where the pubic bone is rolling up towards the sternum to activate a strong abdominal connection in hip extension? From here, the palm of the hand is giving us feedback to open our collarbones and bring that sternum away from the pubic bone to create that upper thoracic extension. I'm already working hard. So from here, we hold the shape and we're going to breathe in to push back. We're going to breathe out, pull the pubic bone towards the bar, lift the sternum away further. Breathing in to push, breathing out, pull forward. So we're moving from the shoulder joint. We push away and we pull back in, active through the shoulder and through the movement throughout. We've got 2 more. Breathing in, we press. Breathing out, pull the pubic bone, lift the sternum. Last one. Good. Can we round the spine? Can we sit back into a rest position, just folding at the hip and the knee, bringing the hands forward on that foot bar and just relaxing down for a moment. Good. While you're down here, let's just change the screen, getting ready for our side reach. And we're going to use our side reach to cool down. So we're going to bring ourselves into our Z sit. We should be nice and warm through the hips. We're going to bring the hands slightly forward of the shoulder now and connect from that palm into the shoulder. Using our inhale breath, we've got our tilt long through both sides of the waist into our lateral flexion, mobilizing through the spinal joints as we come over. Can we bring ourselves back to our controlled length and tilt and return all the way in? We're going to take a counter stretch today. If you can grab the hand onto the front shoulder rest, lift the arm up beside the ear, feel that length and feel that lateral flexion going the other way towards the headrest. Return back up again. Let's repeat. So we're going to go tilt in. Exhale, lateral flexion, mobilizing the spine, opening up the intercostals, calming ourselves as we breathe slowly. Returning in, lifting the arm, inhale, exhale into our lateral flexion, breathe in to hold, breathe out, return up. Okay, great, let's do the same on the other side. Turning around, bring the hand slightly forward of the shoulder, feel the connection from the arm into the scapula. We're going to breathe into tilt long through the waistline. We're breathing out, mobilizing that spine in a lateral flexion. Breathing in, we're returning back to that long tilt and then pull back home. Using the inhale breath to feel the spine lift out of the pelvis, using that exhale breath to laterally flex over towards the headrest. Breathe in to hold, send the breath into the top side lung, breathing out, return. One more time, we inhale into the tilt. Exhale into that lateral flexion, move through the rib cage. Breathing in, come back to our tilt. Return the carriage home. The inhale takes the bar arm up to the ceiling, lengthens the spine out of the pelvis, and then we go into lateral flexion towards the headrest. We're going to breathe in, feel how the breath stretches that top side intercostals, and we're going to return back and rest. Okay, and that is all we have time for. Thank you for joining me.